Testing, making sure you can hear me. I'm on YouTube too. Okay, this is different for me. I have not gone live on YouTube and on Instagram at the same time, so bear with me as I figure this out. Hi, Misha. Can you send like an emoji if you can hear me? Because I'm connected to my Bluetooth speaker for sound. And if you can't hear me, put a thumbs down, please. Can you hear me? Thank you for helping me check the sound. I know on YouTube you should be able to hear me. Oh, she left. Let's do this. Okay, you should be able to hear me now because I disconnected from my Bluetooth speaker. Okay, we're gonna get started in a few seconds. I'm just gonna light some incense and get myself situated. Maybe wait for some people to join, but if you're watching this back as a video, either on YouTube, hi YouTube, or on Instagram here, we are talking about the energy for the collective in Q1. So that's January, February, and March of this year. And the theme that I channeled for this quarter is called Shifting into Neutral on the Path Forward. And so I'm going to be teaching you some deeper human design concepts. We're not going to be talking about energy types. We're not going to be talking about strategy and authority and how your design will help you personally. That's not really what we're going to be talking about here, but we're going to be talking about the crystals of consciousness, where they're located, how they are helpful and can be applied to this theme, and what I'm seeing as the sort of posture, disposition, and medicine that we need to equip ourselves moving forward in this first quarter of the year. So before we get into it, I have some copal here that I've been working with for a few weeks now. This is a medicine from Peru, very strong, and just thought I'd introduce them into the space before jumping in. And then also, if you're watching this back in the future, you can go ahead and take this time to settle into a space for yourself so that as you are listening to this information, you are able to really experience it in a somatic way. Hopefully, I'll remember to take pauses to integrate information for myself, as well as offer that opportunity to you all who are listening, so that we can experience this information, these teachings, in a way that really lands in the body. And though I'm teaching a lot of concepts, there will be opportunity for us to, feel into the body. And I'm not going to be leading any practices in this live, but if you want to do more practice, more energy work, predictive energy work, forecasting, practicing what it's like to channel for yourself, you can hop into the prediction party that's happening after at 3:30. So if you are watching this in the future and it's past 3:30, the prediction party is over. However, I will be doing these forecast and prediction parties at the first Sunday of every quarter of this year. So the next one is happening in April, the first Sunday in April, and the first 3 to register, at least for this prediction party that's happening at 3:30 today. The first 3 people who register will be entered to win a one-on-one energy forecast reading with me. So if no one signed up yet and you're the only person who hops into the prediction party, you get you get the forecast reading with me. And I would love to have you there. Okay, before I run away from what we're doing here, let's light this copal. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be looking back and forth between this screen and this screen so that people on YouTube have my attention and people on Instagram also have my attention. We are going to start with some announcements, and I kind of already talked a little bit about them, but the only other thing that I want to talk about before we jump into the content of today's class is that I have already channeled the collective energy for all of 2025. So if that's something that you want to read, that is available for you on Substack. You can find the link. I'll drop the link here in the YouTube live stream. And you can find it on my Substack at intheforgottenseat.substack.com. So in this class, I'm not going to be doing the channeling because I already did. I forecasted 2025's energy at towards the end of 2024 in September. And so everything that is on the Substack write-up, that was channeled during that time. And so as I introduce these themes, these messages, as well as the medicine that was recommended in support of moving through these themes, we are going to be updating, or I'm going to be updating how I'm seeing this to unfold for me as an individual, for us as in the collective, as part of a collective. So with each quarter and with each month, the energy and the messages will stay the same. However, there will be more to unfold as I roll them out throughout the year. Like I said in the beginning, this is the first of 4 prediction parties and quarterly forecasts. We'll start with the live streamed class talking about the quarter's energy, and then you can hop into my prediction party on Zoom where we will simply run energy, work energy together, do some practicing for forecasting ourselves. All right. For the first quarter of the year, we're talking about January, February, and March. The theme that came through is shifting into neutral on the path forward. So this came through from the card that I pulled as the theme for Q1, and that card is the 3 of Wands. I am shuffling through my deck right now to see if I can pull it out for you. But essentially, the 3 of Wands is a moment. It's not a huge part of the story per se in the grand scheme of things when we really zoom out. It's a moment of action. Found it. It's a moment of enterprise. And if you're familiar, if you have a tarot practice already and you are familiar with the 3 of Wands, I want you to think about how this applies to Q1 in this endeavor to move forward on the path, right? So the 3 of Wands, we're done planning, we're done looking at what we want to do and how, and we're done feeling like we're gonna start. We've started already, but the 3 of Wands is a moment of like, we're going now. We made the plans and it's time to execute. And the second part of this theme, shifting into neutral, I want to talk about the crystals of consciousness in human design. here is the Three of Wands from the Mother Peace deck. I really like the images on this deck. I think they're really beautiful and connect to femininity. The other two perspectives on the Three of Wands that I have come from the Tarot della Rocca, which is a newer deck that I got for Christmas. I'm showing it to both screens. And this deck, the imagery is different. So I know that if you pull cards, if you're a tarot reader, if you're familiar with cartomancy or the practice of doing divination with cards, you know that all the images in a deck evoke a different kind of energy. Even though at the base of it, at the foundation of it, it's the same name, it's the same sort of frequency and energy, but the nuances because of the art do make a difference too. So this is the Three of Wands in the Tarot della Rocca. It has Italian origins, which is not my culture, but I do appreciate the beauty of the art of this deck. And then I have the Rider-Waite Tarot as well, which is the deck that is the most well-known and kind of serves as the I don't want to say generic, but it's the most popular and widely used one, and the one that gets studied the most and talked about the most. And it's the kind of imagery that you are familiar with if you don't have a whole lot of experience in the tarot, but you've probably had a tarot reading with somebody who uses this deck. So I'm looking for the Three of Wands in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. There it is. So the Three of Wands, you see this figure, this person standing overlooking the sea. You have some ships. They have three wands. They're robed and ready to go. I'm going to show YouTube also. And I'm just going to read here from my notes what I have from the Rider-Waite. He symbolizes established strength, enterprise, effort, trade, discovery, commerce. His vehicles, ships, are bearing merchandise, sailing over the sea. And with the sea, this is what is felt. And the sea is it's water. It's what connects us with each other. And his vehicles, which I'll touch more on when we talk about the crystals of consciousness and human design, his vehicles are the ships. And I'm tempted to go right into the crystals of consciousness. Let's just roll with it. Let's just roll with what's going on. So before we go into the crystals of consciousness, in every one of these cards, there is a expression, there is communication, there is a beckoning forward or onward. And this is what I'm talking about by moving forward on the path. In the Tarot della Rocca, this one, it's about direction, moving forward after a moment of hesitation, finding a middle path between two courses of action, gaining an advantage by keeping neutrality between conflicting states. And I think this is very important, this specific perspective on the Three of Wands during this time, because of what is happening in the United States with the inauguration coming up. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day politically. And also, just jumping into the energy of March real quick, there is a Venus retrograde happening in the same place in the sky as when the person, I just a disclaimer here that I am doing my best to not give more of my attention that we already give as a society, as a collective, to these people who assert their dream over the rest of us, and so I'm not going to be speaking on them directly, but if you're here, you know what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. We need to be moving forward on our dreams, on our missions. We need to be finding a middle path because there is only going to be more challenges in polarity, in us versus them, of this perception that you're on this side and I'm on this side, and we both think we're right. And that's just how I've been seeing it play out in time. But what's important is this ability to shift into neutral. And neutral is a tool. Neutral is a state of being that we don't need to be in all the time. I'm not somebody who thinks that neutrality is God or neutrality is the way that it should be or that neutrality is always what's needed of us. But I do think that in this first quarter of the year, neutrality will serve us very well. And so being in a state of neutrality actually will have us gain an advantage because we're looking from a different perspective from I'm on this side and you're on this side. You're my enemy and you're my ally kind of thing. So when we say I'm neutral, we're not picking a side. We're not also giving ourselves away to one theory when in the future or belief or concept when in the future things will change. We're saying right now in this moment, in order to gain advantage on what I'm here to move forward on, I'm going to look at this from a state of neutrality because there are conflicting sides. And I think it's important to know that we have this ability at any moment, and it doesn't make us bad. It doesn't villainize. It doesn't we do not need to villainize ourselves when we decide to shift into neutral. Because if we become too imbalanced one way or another, then we don't have a clear view, a clear perspective, a sort of balanced and harmonized state to have the sort of perspective that we need to have in order to move forward with our mission. And when I talk about our mission, I'm talking from the place of purpose. I'm saying that each of us here has assignments and agreements that we made with um, our ancestors, the earth, the our greater selves, and in order to move forward, to complete those assignments and to continue on forward on our mission, we need to be able to recognize when neutrality is needed. And neutrality is needed in this first quarter of the year. Okay, so we're going to go into the human design because I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about this first part of shifting into neutrality. But before I go into that, I want you to sort of take a moment to check in with anything that is landing in you, to take a pause, to feel what it's like to experience and receive this information. And if you're watching this in the future, you are more than welcome to leave a comment so that as a way to express and communicate uh, those understandings to help you process if that is helpful for you. And maybe if you have an energy work practice for yourself, this would be a great time to reground. And take some time to reflect on the Three of Wands, which is the card that we've been talking about, and the theme for Q1 of shifting into neutral on the path forward. So after we talk about the crystals of consciousness from the Human Design Framework, we will then go into January and then February and March, because I have here some of the major transits happening in the astrology, which I think will be very supportive in bringing and integrating these themes and these messages in the context of time. Okay. So the body as a car or the body as a vehicle. This is a concept that isn't new, but I do think that it is helpful in moving forward. And if we can see our body, our physical body, as a vehicle for our spirit, our essence, our soul, our consciousness, whatever word you want to use to describe the unseen and the more mystical, mysterious aspect of us, you can see that there are that in this analogy or with this metaphor or with this setup, there is a passenger, right? If our body is a vehicle, a car, that means that in this car there is a passenger, or there doesn't have to be, but in the Human Design Framework there is a passenger. There's a passenger and there's a driver, right? This vehicle wouldn't be moving and going if there wasn't a driver. And there is a passenger because there is a part of us from within our vehicle that is always watching, always observing, always aware. And what I love about this framework is that we can locate where the passenger is, where the vehicle, sort of like the place of us that creates the vehicle, that has created the vehicle and that continues to create the vehicle, and then the part of us and where it's located and where it can be felt into in terms of your aura or your energy body, that is the driver. I'm gonna open my book and get really teacher with you guys right now. This is the book that I'll be pulling this information from and that I use in my human design practice and study. So let's start from the top. In this framework in human design, we have 3 crystals of consciousness, and these are more mystical, more conceptual crystals than than something like this. This is moss agate, by the way. And in the human design framework, we have 9 energy centers, 9 main energy centers. And I acknowledge that in other wisdom streams, wisdom traditions, there are many more, and this is just the framework from which I am teaching and speaking on today. So I'm going to show you this image. This is the energy body that you probably have seen on the internet, or if you've ever had a human design reading with me or somebody else. I'm going to show it to YouTube. This thing right here. And on the top, we have the crown. So that's like this energy orb right here. You can feel into this for yourself. This is where the crown is located. And this is also where the personality crystal is located. So what is the personality crystal? The personality crystal is the passenger. So with the passenger, I spoke a little bit about the observer that is always there. If we wanted to locate where the passenger, where the observer sits, it's right here. And how I've found this to be helpful is that whenever we're human and we experience stress and we experience stimulation from external reality from inside of us because of our DNA and what we inherited, in our bloodstream, in our spirit, however you relate to it. The passenger is here in the crown because this is the place that connects us to the all, right? This is the place where a lot of people like to be when they identify as spiritual, is because this is the place where it connects us to everything is spirit. We're all connected. It's all love. It's all light. And it's really easy to become the observer when you're sitting in this space or you're perceiving from mostly this place of the crown where the passenger lives, because it's very depersonalized, which is funny that it's called the personality crystal. And there's something in that makes me this is personal what I'm saying to you now. This is me thinking about how, like, why it's called the personality crystal, and it makes me think that it's less soupy. It's less like spiritual oneness than we may have been taught or led to believe. But that's just, explanation, ponderings from my own personal experience. So that's the passenger, right? The passenger is the witness. The passenger knows how to shift into neutral. So when tying it into the theme of shifting into neutral on the path forward, this is a tool that we have. And I think that a lot of us already do, is just sort of like jumping up into the crown space and being there, because it's easier to perceive that way. And there's nothing wrong with this. However, if you're here, you might be familiar, or you might value being in the body and having this sort of work, spiritual work, energy work done from the body versus disembodied, right? But for the sake of this class right now, this information, to locate where the observer is, the passenger, we don't have to only be there. We can look, we can have our energy in our physical body and still look to where the passenger is in the crown in order to get that sort of information. Okay, how are we feeling? To all of you in the future. Okay. So from there, we go from the passenger to the vehicle. Now, I am super fascinated by this. The vehicle, the body, right? I talked about the body as the car, as the vehicle for our awareness, our consciousness. The design crystal of consciousness is an aspect seated in the ajna center, so between the eyebrows. If you aren't familiar with human design, the ajna energy center, if this is the crown, the ajna is right here where the face is. And specifically, the centralized point of the ajna is right. Some would say it's in the center of your head. Some would say it's right between the eyebrows. Depending on who you learn from and where you've learned about energy, it doesn't really matter, I guess, in this conversation. But for the sake of this information in human design, this is the ajna. Right here. Okay. And it manifests the biogenetics of your body, or the physicality of your form. And how I'm understanding this is that in the realm of personal development, spirituality, mindset stuff, there's a lot of like your thoughts create your reality kind of thing. So, or your mindset is what manifests your reality. And reality is the manifestation of what is unseen into physical form. And so this totally makes sense when we talk about the ajna. This is the mind. This is what we see, right? The eyes are right here. And if we can see something, we can imagine it from the brain. We can program, our beliefs, our ideas in here. Then from the mechanics of whether it's the brain or the brain and spiritual information beyond, then comes physicality. Then comes manifestation. So that's where the vehicle's creation process happens. Is right here. And there's no one here on the live, but if you're watching this in the future, go ahead and let me know how this is landing for you. I want to make sure that this information is actually reaching you and you are understanding. And if not, you would like some clarification, you can ask a question in a comment, DM me if you'd like. I am available for any clarification you might need. Okay, so we talked about the passenger, the vehicle, and now we're going to talk about the driver. So this is probably the newest concept that I have been introduced to, or that I've learned for myself, and it's connected to the G center in human design. So I'm going to show you the chart again. This is the chart, and this is where the G center is located, right here. And it would be like in the center of the chest, like the sternum area, if this were located in the body. But something about the G center is that it's not quite the same as the other energy centers. And I'll explain in a second what I mean by that. That's the G center. So the G center, the themes related to this energy center is attraction, love, also direction, and identity. This is the driver. This is also where the magnetic monopole of you is located. So what is the magnetic monopole? So we hear about magnets and we hear about the two sides of it, right? But from the human design framework, we each have a magnet that is simply acting as an attractor for who we are. And some of us have this G center open, undefined, or defined, and some of us have this defined. Me personally, I have this completely open. Actually, I have no gates here, and what that means is that I sort of take on and try on other people's G center. I try on and take on other people's identity, love, direction, and as well as what their magnetic monopole is pulling and attracting towards them. So if you can imagine it, it's as if you have a magnet that is connected to your higher self. And these two aspects of you are in constant communication, whether open, undefined, or defined. And what this magnetic monopole does, like I said before, it pulls in people, things, experiences into your reality. And sometimes you can experience this in the body. It's just like feeling like there's a direction you need to go in. You're being pulled in a direction. And why this is important for Q1's theme is because we need to understand the mechanics of this. So we have the passenger, the vehicle, what creates the vehicle, the body, is located here in the ajna. And then we have the driver, which is which is located in the G center, connected to the magnetic monopole that each of us individually has. And so what does the driver do? Just like a car, the driver takes us where we want to go, right? So it's on one hand, And depending on how you're designed as an individual, the magnetic pole becomes magnetized and you feel like going somewhere. You feel called to go somewhere, finding a direction, finding a path, going on a path specifically. The driver's taking you there. And then there's also this experience of of the driver like driving the vehicle and putting the passenger and the vehicle where the individual is needing or wanting or experiencing to to move towards. If that makes sense. For example, let me give you an example. Okay. For example, for me, as somebody who has an open G center, so the driver here is open. The driver is not like, this is how I am as a driver, and this is where I go in this lifetime. This is what I'm attracting in this lifetime. My driver is like, I'm driving, but I don't like, we're gonna try this way, and we're gonna try that way, and we're gonna see where that takes me. And all of these different sort of pathways, options, or directions are influenced by other individuals' drivers. So, like a person's, so someone's driver who I'm with frequently is my daughter or my partner. And so I have my driver is like taking in their driver's information and trying on what it's like to drive or to go where they are designed and sort of energetically, mechanically programmed to go. Um, but because my driver is open, I don't stay on that direction, on that path consistently forever. I'm meant to try it on and try different ones and to really see where my driver takes me. Okay, I hope that helped the concept land in you for a bit. I told you all this would be advanced. Advanced human design concepts. Okay. Those are the three parts of you as an individual where you can find the passenger who is the observer that's always present and always there. You can find what makes up the vehicle. So something about this that I want to say is um, the it's really important what ideas you take in because that is what creates your vehicle. It's really important to be aware of what you're saying. This is the ajna because that also creates your vehicle, makes manifest your body. Hello to the person who's here. And the driver, this is a more interesting and more mystical aspect of the individual. So let all of that information sort of just simmer and integrate and land in you. And if there's things that are just going way over your head, that's totally okay. No one's grading you on this. I'm not giving you any homework. And so if there are things that are landing or invoking curiosity, I would start there. Okay. To recap, we've talked about the Three of Wands. I've shown you three different images of the Three of Wands and how they have their own frequency and connection to the theme of shifting into neutral on the path forward. Now we're going to move into the energy for January, then February, then March. So if you look at my year ahead forecast on Substack, you can read the specific messages for January, but I'm going to read them to you because I think that would be a good idea. Okay, so for January, and I'm going to weave in these messages and these themes with the overarching quarterly theme. So for January, we have, also before we start, the January, February, March's energy and messages are already up on my page. So if you come across this video, this live, and you want to look more into that, you don't have to look at my Substack, or you can, or you can just look on my page and they're all there already. Okay, I'm gonna scoot a little bit, get comfortable. Okay. So for January, we have know your why. So for January, to begin shifting into neutral on the path forward, I think it's also important to program into ourselves our why, so that as we're moving forward, we can still be neutral in our perspective and what we're seeing. And behind the neutrality is a sense of our why, our purpose for moving forward, for doing what it is, for choosing how we are moving forward in this first quarter of the year. It says, don't put stock in what you do, who you know, or where you're going. This year will take us all on a wild, wondrous ride. We must hold tight here in the middle and know the range. And this range, hi, Mohani. And know the range. And range here, I believe, is speaking about capacity, meaning that the range will come from the other side of time, that through time, your capacity will stretch when you understand why you're doing something, why you're moving forward. There will be beautiful moments that you may just let pass you by. Go for it once you know your why. I have one specific spirit who loves to rhyme, and so I love when they come through here and we write poetry together. The advice, admonition, or medicine for this month of January is to drink lots and lots of good, clean, and even blessed water. So with that is this understanding that from a lot of ancient wisdom traditions, that water has the ability to communicate and hold memory. And so be very intentional about how you're drinking water, and even going as far as praying, blessing your water. And the way that I like to do this, and I don't do this all the time, but when I do feel called to do it, and I feel called to drink water right now, is to simply be here. I'll just demonstrate. So you can be with your water, start to listen and connect, noticing the aliveness of your water that you have. And I like to use my breath. So when I am blessing my water, I hold an intention in my heart, and I use the breath to breathe into that intention. And I'm imagining that intention to pull into my mouth. And so when I pull that intention into my mouth of beauty, of love, of peace, of blessing, I then breathe that intention into my water until it feels complete. And then I drink the water. We'll drink the water. And the second sort of advice that came through for January is that knowing your why will help us in heart-inspired alignment for the new projects we begin at the end of the month. So at the end of January, right now it's January 5. At the end of January is when a lot of people in the collective, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people will start to revisit old projects, begin new projects that they might have started and want to continue again. So this first part of January is a little bit more quiet, a little bit more difficult. Um, if you go to my Substack, I like scanned my notes that I had while I was channeling, so you can look at the raw information that came through. And then at the end of, yeah, so the beginning we have initiation, which is more like um, difficulty. So you might already be experiencing this, that the first part of January is a little bit more difficult to begin something new. Excuse me. Or there's opportunity for um, to be strengthened by the difficulty. In the middle of the month, we have stillness, so it's a little bit more of a quiet time. And then the end, we have magician energy. So here, this is when creativity starts to kick up. And I think what is being asked of us here, that until the end of the month, we connect with our why. We connect with why we are moving forward, why we are here, why we're doing what we're doing. Okay. Um, when I channeled January's aura, I saw a lot of deep purples, light and true blues, and some evergreen. Okay, I just want to take a moment to, if you're watching this in the future and you've made it this far and you're still with me, I'm very grateful that you're here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Moving into February, and then after we're finished with these monthly themes, I'm going to wrap it up very nicely. And then we will hop into the prediction party, which will begin at 3:30. And there's still time to join and sign up. Registration's required, and you can find that link at the top of my page where all the links live. And that's where we will work and run energy together. The first three people to join will be entered to win a one-on-one energy forecast reading with me for the first quarter of the year. Okay, so February, we have the fun of full spectrum understanding. And every time I say this or I read this, because I've been creating content for it, so it keeps coming back up to remind me, I keep seeing like a rainbow brain. And this rainbow brain, to me, is really speaking to the full spectrum. So when I think of full spectrum, I think of all of it, right? The dark, the light, this way versus that way, and everything in between. And a rainbow is a beautiful symbol of the full spectrum that exists. And the fun, so the fun of full spectrum of understanding, I believe that in February, it'll be very fun for us to, and very helpful if we do see it this way, that one extreme on this side and that extreme on the other side, if we kind of have fun with looking at it, if we kind of sit in the seat of like, this is kind of silly that this exists this way, because then we can come into understanding that there is a full spectrum of experience here. And it's not about choosing one or the other, but it's really about finding understanding from looking at all of it. And this is already coming, like the overarching theme of shifting into neutral on the path forward for Q1. I feel like this, the full spectrum is sort of like the opposite of neutral, but in neutral, you can then see the full spectrum. So it's like a beautiful paradox here. The message from February 2025 is all is rosy and green until you have a sharp knife who cuts the tails on just about everything. And I had a hard time understanding what this was. So I wrote in the Substack post that this is talking about a person who isn't patient enough to arrive at understanding. So there's an archetype, a character, a being who isn't patient enough to arrive at understanding. There is an other, essentially, who has this quality of impatience to understand. A person who cuts it off before arriving at the end, so to speak. So so the beginning of the message was all is rosy and green until you have a sharp knife who cuts the tails on just about everything. So all is good, all is fine, all is beautiful and well until there's a person who cuts off the end before they can arrive at an understanding. Be patient with them and don't forget you can still and always choose to do it your own way. Do your own thing. It's not the proud who go first, it's the drum which keeps steady. So, with this, there will be a challenge here for us to be patient, be the one who sees it through to the end, whatever it is, whether that's a conversation, a project, a relationship, and really going to the end of it, not prematurely cutting things off before you can arrive at wisdom or understanding. There is an encouragement to acknowledge that you don't have to do it the way that they're doing it by just cutting everybody off prematurely or cutting the situation off prematurely, that we can do it our own way. We can finish the way we want to, even if it's not with them, because it's not the proud who go first. And I think what this is saying is that it's not the ones who are like, look at me, I'm so proud, although there's nothing wrong with that. There is a reward. The winners, I think, who go first, I think who get to be first placed in a sense, are the ones who are like the drum which keeps steady. And so this is connected to the fun of full spectrum understanding, is because if you make it to the end of something, you have the full spectrum of understanding of what happened there. And if you keep steady like a drum, you can get there without burning out. You can get there to the full spectrum of the experience without you cutting off the tail of something because you're rushing to get to be first, essentially, or to win. So the medicine here is being like the drum, yes, but also patience. So patience is what is going to lead us to the fun of full spectrum understanding. And the aura of February, when I was channeling this, felt really edgy and rigid. There's a lot of trying to define, labeling kind of thing, which leads to more just boxing in of the self. And this can be helpful when it's balanced with knowing your why, knowing your bigger context for doing something, that when these ridges and these sort of definitions of the self, they're helpful when we spend time in January knowing why we're doing something, because then we can choose the label, the edge, the sort of the line the box that we're putting ourselves in, from a place of knowing our why and our purpose. Okay, and the color is red. There's a lot of red in February. All right. I'm going to start moving this along because the prediction party is going to start in 30 minutes. We're going to go to March. I'm going to drink some water. So in March, we have grief so bittersweet. Lots of soft and natural beauty, but still some will not care and even scoff at her/them. I see painted highways with beautiful signs and banners, rows and rows of people marching with grief. It's love which connects and bonds them. Still so much grief. Bring it to the oak trees. So I made a video about the astrological connection in March to what I channeled here back in September. And what it is, it's the Venus retrograde. I don't even have it here in my notes, but there's also a total lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 13. Mercury goes retrograde in Aries the day after. And then we also have a solar eclipse in Aries on the 29th. So March is a big month energetically. There's a lot of change happening. And what is coming into connection or alignment with the astrology here is the grief so bittersweet and the Venus retrograde. There's going to be a lot of political action seeking justice for queer folk, for femmes. I think specifically there's going to be tragedy, and I am taking a seat of neutrality as I deliver this information to you, knowing that I could be proven wrong in the future. But what this is pointing to is more harm. And through that harm, there is a love that connects us to offer the kind of care and justice that is needed for those who embody that soft and natural beauty. There's a sense of innocence here. The colors that I saw in March was like a light peach pinks, like very soft and feminine colors here that are going to take the most precedence in March. So the medicine, two different things. Bring it to the oak trees. And in my video on my page about March 2025 and the astrology, I talk about who the oak trees are. And something that I didn't say in that video, but I'll say here about the oak trees, is that we can also be an oak tree in March in this situation where grief is so bittersweet, grief bringing us together, grief showing us that there is a love which connects us and bonds us. Bringing it to the oak trees, I think, means also bringing the grief to the literal oak trees, but also to the people who are standing firm and leaning on the people who are standing firm in themselves, resourcing each other, resourcing other people from simply standing firm and being all on their own. Solitude will be needed. It'll be important for us to take some time to be by ourselves, to learn how to be an oak tree, essentially. But also connecting with dragon energy here, which doesn't feel too popular. Popular doesn't feel too common. But I wrote here to connect with dragon energy, and how the year of the dragon gave us tools for how to show up specifically in March of this year when the theme is grief so bittersweet. Okay. So that is the theme for Q1. And then the monthly messages and medicine for January, February, and March. What I want to say to wrap this up is to start in the sequence, to move through these directives and these medicines and these messages together. So begin this month with understanding and knowing your why. Why are you working a certain job? Why are you in this relationship? Why are you cultivating specific communities in your life? Why? What is driving those actions? Right, we're talking about the Three of Wands here also. It's the suit of action, of moving, of endeavoring, of going towards and for something. So start with January, knowing your why. then I really do feel like once we commit to that, then the full spectrum of understanding will just happen. And be prepared for what's coming in March because it doesn't feel easy. It feels very emotional. And being grounded in your why will also allow us to soften into what is coming in March of this year. Okay. I don't have anything else in my notes, at least for this portion. But if you want to work energy with me, you can hop into the prediction party. We're going to start at 3:30. It'll be on Zoom. Registration is required, and I am so grateful that I get to deliver this information to you all. If you have any questions, please feel free to DM me. If you want to read in depth everything that I wrote in this first 3 months, that's available for free on Substack. The rest of the year is behind a paywall right now, but January, February, March are available. And as I really do think if you start here and you start well here in this first quarter of the year, you'll be good. You'll be good for the rest of what's to come. Okay. Anything else I should say? Oh, that's it. Okay. Thank you so much to all of you here on YouTube who are watching in the future. Thank you to everyone who popped in during the live and who are watching this in the future. The next quarterly forecast and prediction party is happening on April. I'm looking it up for you. It is happening the first Sunday of April, which is April 6th. We will go live at the same time. Well, I don't know if I'll go live, but we will have a quarterly forecast just like this on April 6th at 2 p.m. And then we will also have a prediction party right after to work and run energy and practice channeling together. So if you are wanting to sign up for that, I believe that registration is already open for that prediction party. And this forecast will be available on my YouTube channel to watch later on. It'll be available on here on Instagram to watch later on, and I'm going to look at also having it be on my podcast so that you can also listen to it while you're driving or going for a walk and you don't have to sit and watch the video. So stay tuned for that. Keep your eyes, ears, and whys peeled. And I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you so much for coming to class, for watching this. And I wish you all the best in discovering and remembering and recovering your why this month. See you all very soon. Mwah, mwah. Bye.